If you were born before 1966, please do not skip this video, because what I'm about to tell you affects your money directly, and most people your age have not been told any of it properly. The Department for Work and Pensions does not ring you up and explain how the rules apply to your exact date of birth. They change the system and quietly expect you to keep up. Right now, in the middle of 2026, there are people in this exact age bracket who are either receiving less than they are owed, or who are about to make a decision they cannot take back simply because nobody sat them down and explained it properly. That is exactly what I'm going to do for you today. Stay with me to the end, because the most important part, the part that could put real money back in your pocket, comes a little later, and I do not want you to miss it. Here is something the system will not volunteer to you. If you have lost a husband or wife, and they reached state pension age before the rules changed in April 2016, you may be entitled to inherit a portion of their additional state pension. This is money built up over decades of their working life, and depending on their date of birth, you could be entitled to anywhere between 50 and 100% of it. The pension service does not automatically check this for you when a bereavement is reported. You have to ask. And thousands of widows and widowers across the country have never asked, simply because they did not know the entitlement existed. One phone call to the pension service could add a permanent increase to your weekly payment for the rest of your life, and yet so few people ever make that call. Let me ask you something directly. Have you checked your own state pension forecast in the last 12 months? Do you know to the week when your payments are due to start? And here is a smaller but telling question. Has a letter ever arrived from HMRC that you did not fully understand? And did you put it to one side rather than deal with it? I ask because that last one matters more than people realize. And I am coming back to it shortly because it is catching out more pensioners this year than almost anything else in the system. In a moment, I am going to show you the actual figures involved, the exact gap between what you receive and what triggers a tax demand. And it is smaller than almost anyone expects. But first, let's talk about the age itself, because this is where the confusion usually starts. For years, 65 was the number everyone had in their head as the finishing line. That number no longer applies to most people in this age group. The state pension age has been rising in stages, moving from 66 towards 67, and the exact point at which you qualify now depends on your date of birth, down to the month, sometimes down to the day. If you were born before 1966, you fall somewhere across this transition. And the honest truth is that a huge number of people in this bracket are still working off outdated assumptions about when their payments begin. This is not a small administrative detail. It is the difference between planning your retirement around the correct date and discovering only when you go to claim that you have to wait months or even longer than you expected with no income to bridge the gap. The quickest way to remove all doubt is to use the state pension age calculator on gov.uk. Enter your date of birth and get the confirmed figure in under a minute. Do not rely on what a friend or a neighbor told you their date was. Everyone's is different. Now let me tell you about Margaret, a retired school administrator from Leeds who is turning 66 this year. For months, Margaret assumed her state pension would simply begin the week of her birthday because that is what she had always believed the rule to be. It was only when she rang the pension service to ask a routine question that she discovered her actual qualifying date was several months later than she had planned for. She had already reduced her working hours in anticipation of the pension starting and suddenly found herself with a gap in her income she had not budgeted for. Once she understood the correct date, she was able to adjust, delay reducing her hours a little further, and avoid the shortfall entirely. Her exact words to me were that nobody had ever told her the date could move, and that a 5-minute check would have saved her months of worry. That is precisely why I'm telling you to check yours today, not next month. Now, to the part I promised you, the one involving HMRC, because this is genuinely catching people out in huge numbers right now. The full new state pension for the current tax year comes to just over $12,548 a year. The personal allowance, which is the amount you are permitted to receive before any income tax applies, is frozen at £12,570, and it is staying frozen for several more years. Do the sum, and you will see the gap between the two is barely more than 20 pounds. 20 pounds. That means the smallest amount of additional income, a modest private pension, a little interest on savings, a small part-time wage tips you straight over the line into paying tax. And because your state pension is paid to you in full without any tax taken off at source, HMRC follows up separately with what is called a simple assessment letter, telling you sometimes for the very first time in your retirement that you now owe tax. Over 1 million of these letters went out in a single recent tax year, a rise of more than 70% on the year before. And the majority of people who receive one have never heard the term before it lands on their doormat. If one of these letters arrives, do not put it in a drawer and hope it resolves itself. There is a real payment deadline attached to it. And if you think the figure is wrong, you generally have around 60 days to challenge it. There is good news buried in all of this, and it is worth every minute of your attention. If you have gaps in your national insurance record, years where you were not working, raising a family, or living abroad, those gaps can often still be filled voluntarily, and doing so can permanently increase your weekly pension for the rest of your life. Before paying anything, ring the Future Pension Center first and confirm that filling a specific year will actually increase your payment, because in some cases it will not, and you should never hand over money for nothing. On top of that, if you are married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns below the personal allowance, you may be entitled to marriage allowance, transferring a portion of unused allowance to the higher earner and cutting their tax bill every single year. This can also be backdated for several previous tax years, meaning some couples are due a lump sum refund worth over £1,000 from a single application on gov.uk, UK, one that takes about 10 minutes and costs nothing. Please do not use a pay claims company for this. They will take a large slice of your own money simply for filling in a form you can complete yourself for free. So, here is what I want you to do the moment this video finishes. Check your state pension age on gov.uk using your exact date of birth. Check your national insurance record for any gaps and ring the Future Pension Center before paying to fill them. If you have lost a spouse, ring the pension service and ask directly whether you are entitled to inherited additional pension. And if a letter from HMRC has been sitting unopened, open it today, because the deadline attached to it is real. You have worked your whole life for this money, and you deserve every penny you are owed, not whatever is left over after the system quietly keeps what you never knew to ask for. If this helped you, share it with someone in your life who was also born before 1966, because they are very likely dealing with exactly the same confusion, and one shared video could make a genuine difference to their retirement. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next one, where I will be going through exactly what pension credit is worth checking, even if you think you do not qualify.